You didn't click this video by accident. And if you're a Leo or someone carrying the Leo fire in your spirit, I need you to hear me clearly. There are no coincidences in the spiritual world. When you start seeing strange numbers repeat, when you wake up from dreams that feel more real than life, when people begin to disappear without explanation, something is being set into motion. And for you, Leo, the motion isn't small. It's royal. It's divine. And it has to do with something you've been waiting for your entire life. The release of wealth that was always meant to be yours. But let me tell you this. God doesn't send wealth suddenly. He sends signs first. Not to tease you, not to test your patience, but to prepare the throne before placing the crown. The truth is, these signs may have already started appearing in your life. Quietly, silently, right under your nose. And if you don't know how to recognize them, if you overlook even one of them, you might delay a blessing that was already decided for you in heaven. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through all 12 divine signs that prove God is already releasing wealth into your life. Not someday, now. And when I say wealth, I don't just mean money. I mean resources, peace, influence, favor, alignment, and spiritual inheritance. So, if you're feeling something shifting in your spirit lately, stay with me. If you felt a strange calm while everything around you still looks chaotic, this video is for you. Leo, you're not watching this to get ready. You're watching this because heaven is already moving. Let's begin. Sign 1. The sacred restlessness. That means you're being prepared. Discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong, Leo. Sometimes it's proof that something sacred is waking up inside you. There's a kind of restlessness that comes before a spiritual breakthrough. It doesn't show up with fireworks or clear instructions. It creeps in like a whisper, in the middle of the night, in the silence after a long day, or when you're doing something ordinary and suddenly feel the weight of extraordinary potential pressing on your chest. Leo, have you been feeling that lately? That sense that your current reality just doesn't fit anymore. Maybe you've been waking up with a subtle but constant ache that says, I was meant for more than this. And you're not wrong, because here's the truth. When God is about to release wealth into the life of a Leo, the very first thing he does is disturb your peace with mediocrity. Let me be clear, this isn't anxiety, it's not burnout, it's not depression, it's divine dissatisfaction. Why this restlessness is sacred for Leo. Leo, you are the sign of royalty, of command, of divine fire. You were never built to sit quietly in a life that doesn't honor your full magnitude. So, when you begin to feel uncomfortable in environments that once felt safe, that's not a problem, it's prophecy. The fire in you is beginning to rise again. You may not have language for it. You may not have the plan yet. But something deep within you is starting to reject the ordinary. Suddenly, you're losing patience for small talk. You can't fake enthusiasm in places that drain your light. You're uninterested in just getting by, and it's not because you're ungrateful. It's because your soul has seen a glimpse of what's coming, and it refuses to settle. Real life story. The Leo who refused to shrink. Years ago, I worked with a Leo client who had built what others would call a successful life-stable job. Decent home, a good reputation. But she kept telling me I don't feel alive in this. I feel like I'm wearing someone else's shoes. I told her, that's not failure. That's the roar waking up again. Within months, she left her job, launched a purpose-led creative business, and within 1 year, she had quadrupled her income. But it didn't start with opportunity. It started with restlessness, the spiritual meaning behind it. Restlessness is how God prepares the soil before planting wealth. He first loosens the ground of your comfort zone. Because wealth doesn't just mean money. It means new systems, new habits, new identities. And to receive all of that, you must first become uncomfortable with anything that's beneath your calling. So if you're feeling a pressure in your chest you can't explain, a loss of tolerance for old patterns, hunger for more that nothing seems to satisfy. You're not falling apart. You're waking up. A message just for Leo. Leo, don't mistake this restlessness for weakness. Don't label it as instability. You're not failing. You're molting. You're shedding skin that can't contain your future. Because abundance doesn't land on a soul that's numb. It lands on a soul that's awake even if it's trembling. Life lesson. When you feel uncomfortable in a life that once satisfied you, that is your soul signaling that you've outgrown your past. Do not go back. Do not shrink to fit. It's time to expand even if you don't know what's next. Comment if this resonates with you, Leo. Have you felt this sacred restlessness lately? Have you felt the nudge that you're meant for more? Let us know below. You're not alone. Because Leo, that restlessness doesn't come alone. When the fire starts rising in your spirit, the universe doesn't leave you guessing. It starts sending movement into your outer world too. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next sign. Sign 2. When closed doors start mysteriously moving. Not every closed door was rejection. Some were divine protection. And now they're moving not by chance but by design. If you've been feeling a strange shift lately, like doors that were once shut tight are suddenly cracking open, this isn't random. It's the universe signaling that your spiritual season has changed. And Leo, when God decides that it's time to release wealth into your life, He doesn't always create something new. Sometimes He resurrects what was once denied. What does a moving door actually look like? You might not notice it right away because it often starts subtly. It could be a job opportunity that rejected you before now reaching back out. An old contact who ghosted you years ago suddenly messaging you again. A project you buried long ago now resurfacing in your mind with fresh energy. A dream you gave up on showing up again in conversation or through someone else speaking it back to you. These are not coincidences. These are divine recalibrations. And Leo, when the lion in you begins to rise, doors that were once shut for your protection begin to move again for your elevation. The spiritual mechanism behind it. Here's something I've learned after decades of studying astrological timing, spiritual alignment, and human transformation. God doesn't always bless you through new roads. Sometimes He reactivates old paths that were never dead, only dormant. Why? Because He was waiting for you to be ready. The opportunity wasn't wrong. The timing was. And now, as your internal fire awakens, as your hunger for abundance grows, your energy begins to match what's already been set aside for you. And the universe responds. Doors start to shift. Connections are reawakened. The invisible becomes visible again. For Leo, this is a deeply sacred shift. You are not a sign that begs. You do not chase for scraps. You were born with the signature of sovereignty. So, when it's your time, the door opens, not because you pushed harder, but because you're aligned now. This is how divine timing honors the Leo spirit. You don't knock forever. You wait, you grow, and the right door opens on its own wide, unmistakably, and with your name already engraved on it. A story from the field. One Leo woman I once worked with had applied to the same publishing company 5 times over 7 years. Always rejected. Then one day out of nowhere they emailed her, not to offer her a new application, but to ask her if she'd mentor their younger writers. They didn't remember rejecting her, but she remembered. You know what changed? Not them. Her. She no longer approached as someone needing approval. She had become the embodiment of her own value, and the door long closed moved. Life lesson. Closed doors aren't always endings. They're often sacred pauses, and when your character, your courage, and your clarity finally catch up to your calling, those doors don't just open. They swing wide and welcome. So stop resenting the doors that once denied you. They weren't punishment. They were preparation. How to recognize when a door is moving. Start paying attention to emails from people you thought forgot you. Sudden ideas to revisit old projects. Random reminders of dreams you once buried. a strange pull to try again in places you had given up. These are not emotional impulses. They are signals that the spiritual realm is moving things behind the scenes for you. For Leo, this moment requires courage, because here's the trap many fall into. When an old door begins to move, fear says, "But last time it didn't work." And if you believe that fear, you'll delay your wealth another year, maybe more. But Leo, your past rejections were never about your worth. They were divine timing training your boldness. Now the door is creaking open, but it's still up to you to walk through. Comment below. If an old door has started to move in your life, Leo, is a past dream returning? Is someone re-entering your story unexpectedly? It might be the sign you were praying for. Because once the doors begin to move, what happens next is equally divine. God doesn't just open the path, He gives you the boldness to walk it. And that brings us to the next undeniable sign. Sign 3, the sudden return of courage. You thought you lost. When wealth is on its way, God doesn't just change your situation, He changes your spine. There's a moment in every Leo's life when fear stops being the loudest voice in the room. It doesn't always happen with a thunderclap or some monumental decision. Sometimes it starts with the simplest whisper, "What if I actually can?" If you've been feeling that shift lately, an unexpected surge of boldness, a strange sense of readiness to act where you used to hesitate, don't dismiss it. That is not adrenaline. It's divine activation. When God begins to release wealth into your life, He knows you'll need more than vision to receive it. You'll need courage, not the kind that roars, but the kind that moves. Why courage returns now? Let's be honest, Leo is a fire sign. You were born brave, but somewhere along the road, life may have dulled that fire. Rejection taught you to play small. Failure taught you to play safe. Scarcity taught you to settle. But when the spiritual realm decides it's time for your abundance to arrive, the fear that once ruled you begins to melt in the heat of your destiny. You're no longer content to wait. You're no longer satisfied with surviving. You're no longer scared of taking the leap. Even if the whole path isn't clear yet, you're moving. That Leo is the return of your royal courage, a story you might recognize. One of the Leos I worked with, a single father in his 40s, had spent years working a job he hated, staying quiet, keeping his head down. Why? Because security felt safer than risking it all for a dream he wasn't sure he could reach. But one day something in him shifted. He didn't get a raise. He didn't receive a sign in the sky. He just woke up different. He walked into work that morning, handed in his resignation, and said, "I'd rather build something uncertain than die in something secure." 6 months later, he was running his own business, doing what he loved, and earning triple what he made before. What changed? Not his skill set, his courage. The spiritual psychology of Leo courage. God doesn't bless passivity. Yes, He opens doors. Yes, He aligns people. Yes, He releases divine timing. But He expects you to walk. And when your soul is aligned with the wealth heaven is releasing, God starts removing the fear that once kept you from receiving it. Suddenly, you stop second-guessing your instincts. You start speaking up in rooms where you used to stay silent. You apply for things you never thought you were qualified for. You trust your ideas and act on them. This isn't arrogance, it's spiritual readiness. You've been refined. You've been quieted. And now you are bold without needing to shout. What makes this different for Leo? Courage comes easier to Leo than most signs. But not because you're reckless. It's because your soul remembers the throne you came from. You were born to lead. You were born to inspire. You were born to create impact. So when fear tells you to play small, it doesn't sit right in your body. And when God starts releasing wealth, He activates the natural boldness you once buried under bills, burdens, and betrayals. Life lesson. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to obey it. And when your courage comes from God, not ego, it becomes unshakable. You don't need full clarity. You don't need all the facts. You just need one thing: alignment. When heaven moves, Leo moves. Even if your knees tremble, your heart will roar. Have you started to feel this shift in courage? Have you surprised yourself recently with a bold step you never thought you'd take? Comment below if this resonates with you, Leo. This might be the confirmation you didn't know you needed. Because courage isn't the only thing that changes when wealth is being released. Sometimes people start disappearing, not because you did anything wrong, but because not everyone can follow you into your new season. And that leads us into the next sign. Sign 4. When fake people begin to quietly exit your life. Before God releases wealth into your hands, He removes the hands that would have tried to take it. Let's face it, when you think about receiving abundance, you rarely think about loss. You picture addition, not subtraction. But here's a spiritual truth I've seen again and again. When heaven prepares to elevate you, earth begins to prune you. And the pruning starts with people. What this looks like in real life. Suddenly, friendships that once felt unbreakable begin to feel distant. You text, and they don't reply. You share your heart, and they give back silence. You celebrate something small, and they respond with cold disinterest, or worse, subtle envy. At first, you question yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I being too sensitive? Should I chase this connection harder? No, what's happening is sacred. Leo, when wealth is on its way to you, God begins to remove anyone who can't handle your next level. Why? This hurts Leo more than others. Let's not sugarcoat it. Leo is the most loyal sign in the zodiac. When you love fully. When you commit, it's for real. When you call someone friend, you mean it with your whole heart. So when people start to fade, it hurts. Even if they were fake. Even if you suspected it. Even if part of you is relieved, another part feels betrayed. But here's what you need to understand. God isn't being cruel, He's being protective. Because not everyone deserves front row seats to your blessing. The spiritual strategy of separation. There are people in your life right now who admire your potential, but would resent your success. They enjoy your light as long as it doesn't shine too bright. They support your healing until it makes you stronger than them. They cheer for your growth as long as they're ahead of you. And when wealth is on its way, God will not allow those energies to follow you through the door. Because if He did, your prosperity would turn into a battle. You'd spend more time protecting it from emotional leeches than enjoying it. You'd doubt yourself, filter your joy, and feel guilt for rising. And that is not the energy of wealth. A story I'll never forget. A Leo client once told me, when I finally started making real money, I felt lonelier than ever. The friends I thought would celebrate me disappeared. I asked her one question. Would you still be who you are now if they had stayed? She paused, then said, no. They kept me small. Every time I dreamed big, they reminded me of what I should be grateful for. They masked control as care, control as... And that's when she realized their exit wasn't betrayal, it was release. Signs that it's happening to you. You suddenly feel drained after talking to someone who used to energize you. You sense people pulling away right when your life starts improving. You're no longer willing to shrink yourself to keep others comfortable. You feel peace about relationships ending even if you still love them. These are not accidents. They are divine extractions. Life lesson. Before God trusts you with increase, He protects you from those who would mismanage your overflow. This isn't punishment, it's promotion. And Leo, I know it hurts. But when you release the wrong people, you make room for the right ones. Because the same energy that removes fake support will also attract divine connections. Have you experienced this pruning season? Leo, have certain relationships started falling away quietly without a fight? Comment below if this resonates with you. You're not alone in this. It's part of your preparation. Because once the space is cleared, the mind begins to shift. And that brings us to the next sacred sign. Sign 5. When your mindset about money begins to transform. Before wealth ever reaches your hands, it first reshapes your thoughts. God doesn't just deposit money, He rewires your relationship with it. There comes a moment in every Leo's life, quiet, personal, undeniable, when money stops being a source of stress, shame, or fear and starts becoming sacred. You don't need a new income stream to feel it. It begins when you stop saying things like, "I'm just bad with money." You catch yourself no longer mocking the wealthy. You stop repeating those phrases you heard growing up. Money is the root of all evil. People like us don't get rich. It's selfish to want more. Instead, you begin to think, what if money is a tool for divine purpose? What if wealth is a form of worship when it's stewarded well? That shift, Leo, is no small thing. It's a signal, the root of transformation. From scarcity to stewardship, God cannot bless a scarcity mindset with abundance. Why? Because a mind that sees money as dangerous will subconsciously push it away. A heart that feels guilty for having more will quietly sabotage every opportunity. A spirit that believes wealth is unholy will block its own inheritance. So when God is preparing to release wealth into your life, the first deposit is not in your bank account, it's in your belief system. For Leo, this change is personal. Leo, you were never meant to live small. And yet many Leos carry deep guilt for wanting more. You've heard it. You're too flashy. You want too much. Why can't you just be content? But here's the truth. Wanting more isn't greed, it's growth. And when your heart is aligned with divine purpose, wealth doesn't make you selfish. It makes you generous at scale. The mindset shift you may already be feeling. You start respecting money, not fearing it. You start managing your current finances even if they're small. You stop idolizing wealth but also stop demonizing it. You begin to see money as a mirror. It reflects how you think, how you give, how you dream. And the biggest sign of all, you begin to feel worthy. Worthy of earning more. Worthy of living well. Worthy of leaving behind survival mode and entering into overflow. A real story of a Leo mindset shift. One Leo man I knew once told me I used to think money was evil until I realized I needed it to fund my mission. He ran a mentorship program for young artists, and for years he scraped by, burned out, underpaid, afraid to ask for support. But one day he asked himself a question that changed his life. If I don't feel worthy of abundance, how can I ever teach others to believe in theirs? That question broke a lie he didn't even know he had. Within months, he raised thousands in funding, doubled his personal income, and most importantly, never apologized for dreaming big again. Life lesson. Wealth starts as a mental environment before it ever becomes a physical reality. If you want abundance to live in your hands, it must first feel safe living in your mind. And Leo, you are now building a mental temple where wealth feels welcomed, not feared. Have your thoughts about money started to shift lately? Are you beginning to see abundance as something sacred, not shameful? Comment below if this resonates with you. Let's rewrite the money story together, because once your mind begins to shift, something else starts happening too. You begin to dream again more vividly, more frequently, and with uncanny clarity. And that's exactly where we go next. Sign 6. When prophetic dreams begin to speak of abundance. Before your reality changes, your dreams will whisper what your spirit already knows: something divine is coming. Leo, have you been dreaming differently lately? Not random fragments, not anxious replays, but vivid, symbolic, strangely peaceful dreams. The kind you wake from feeling as though you touched something beyond this world. If so, it's not just your imagination. It's a sign. Because when God is preparing to release wealth into your life, your spirit often receives the message before your mind can comprehend it. And the most direct line between your spirit and your conscious awareness, dreams. Why this happens before the manifestation. Wealth isn't just physical, it's spiritual. And before you handle abundance with your hands, you must first perceive it with your soul. So God in His mercy begins to prepare you in your sleep. Why? Because your defenses are down. Your fears are quiet. Your ego isn't arguing. In dreams, you can see clearly what your waking mind still tries to deny. Common dream symbols. When wealth is being released. These are not rules, but patterns I've seen for decades in the Leo collective. Overflowing water. Rivers. Waterfalls, rain. Water in dreams often represents spiritual provision washing away old scarcity. Keys, doors, or gates, representing access breakthroughs and divine timing. Gold coins, treasure chests, not just riches but hidden value being revealed. Crowns, thrones, palaces, especially meaningful for Leo, symbolizing divine inheritance, leadership, elevation. Being gifted something, often symbolizing spiritual favor or supernatural alliances forming. Buying or owning something you've longed for. A preview of provision already being prepared. You don't have to be a dream interpreter to feel their weight, because the truth isn't in the symbol, it's in the piece that follows. A real Leo story. A client of mine, a Leo artist, told me he kept dreaming of standing on a stage dressed in gold surrounded by lights. At the time, he was barely making ends meet painting in a tiny basement apartment. I thought I was just fantasizing, he said, but the dream kept coming, over and over. So he started painting that dream. He called it Abundance Before Arrival. That one painting sold for more than 6 months of his rent, and it opened a floodgate of recognition he never saw coming. Was the dream just wishful thinking? No, it was spiritual confirmation arriving early. How to respond to prophetic dreams. When these dreams come, don't ignore them. Don't explain them away. Don't let logic erase what heaven is revealing. Instead, 1. Write them down, even if they seem strange. 2. Ask your spirit, not your ego, what they mean. 3. Pay attention to repetition. If the same symbol or theme returns, something is being emphasized. And most importantly, believe, because belief is what turns spiritual previews into physical reality. Life lesson. When your dreams begin to reveal what your eyes haven't seen, it's because your soul has already entered the future. And Leo, when your soul steps into abundance ahead of time, your reality won't be far behind. Have you had vivid dreams lately? Dreams of water, gold, crowns, doors. Things that felt symbolic or strangely peaceful. Comment below if any of this resonates with you, Leo. Let's bring the language of dreams into the light, because once your spirit begins to see what's coming, your past can no longer stay untouched. The next sign is often uncomfortable, but it's crucial. Sign 7. When old debts begin to resolve themselves without you forcing it. When God is preparing to release wealth, He first removes what's been silently leaking it from your life. Leo, has this happened to you lately? A bill you forgot about suddenly gets settled. A person who owed you for years pays you back without warning. You get an unexpected refund, a discount, a cancellation of something that once felt heavy. It's subtle, surprising, almost too good to believe, and yet, it's happening. You didn't chase it, you didn't beg for it, you didn't force it, it just moved. And Leo, that movement is not random, it's divine. Why this sign matters so much. Wealth doesn't begin when you make more. It begins when you stop losing what you already have. Debts are like energetic leaks. They drain your joy, your confidence, your momentum. And for Leo, someone who leads with heart and pride, carrying debt doesn't just hurt your wallet, it bruises your soul. That's why when God begins releasing wealth into your life, He often starts by restoring your foundation. And that restoration shows up as supernatural resolution. What this might look like. A credit company offers you a surprising settlement. A long-lost client finally pays their invoice. A friend forgets that you once loaned them money but now returns it anyway. A debt is reduced, removed, or forgiven without your intervention. The pattern is the same. Freedom comes to find you without you chasing it. A Leo's story of unexpected freedom. I once worked with a Leo business owner who carried shame over a failed investment. He'd borrowed money to expand his dream, but the timing was off. The business failed, and he was left with mounting debt and silence from former partners. Years later, when he had stopped obsessing, stopped chasing, and started healing, something strange happened. One by one, those Leo's old partners began reaching out, not to fight, not to blame, but to settle, to reconcile, to make things right. He told me it felt like God had turned the tide in my favor without me having to raise my voice. That's what happens when the season shifts. The chains fall without a key. The spiritual truth of this sign: God will not pour new wine into old wineskins. Before He fills your life with wealth, He repairs what's broken. He closes financial wounds. He patches spiritual leaks. He clears the residue of old decisions. Because debt isn't just math, it's energy. And the energy of unresolved debt pulls your vibration away from prosperity. So when those debts begin to lift, release, resolve, that's not coincidence. That's clearance. Why you must pay attention. It would be easy to overlook this sign, to call it luck, to move on too fast. But if you do, you'll miss the deeper message. God is clearing the soil because He's about to plant something sacred. And if you learn the lessons now, you won't just be free from the old. You'll know how to protect the new life lesson. Before abundance can flow freely into your life, it must no longer be leaking out from yesterday's wounds. God doesn't just prosper the present, Leo. He redeems the past too. That's how deep His preparation goes. Have you had any unexpected debts settle lately? Has something you thought was lost suddenly found its way back to you? Comment below if this resonates. You may be more free than you realize, because once the old debts are cleared, God doesn't leave an empty space. He fills it with ideas, inspiration, insight. And that takes us to the next undeniable sign. Sign 8. When creative and financial ideas start flowing like a river. When heaven wants to prosper you, it doesn't always send money. It sends ideas, inspired ones. Let me ask you something, Leo. Have you recently felt a sudden rush of creative energy? A business idea? A project concept? A product you'd never thought of before? A way to monetize a skill you've always taken for granted? It may have come at 2 a.m., or in the shower, or while driving in silence. Not forced, not borrowed, not copied, but fresh, flowing, real. If so, it's not random. It's not just your imagination. It's divine alignment. Why creative flow is a sign of financial shift. Wealth doesn't always start with money. It often begins with an idea that turns into value. And Leo, your soul is built for that. You are ruled by the sun, the source of creative fire. When your energy starts flowing freely, that's a spiritual indicator that something in your frequency has shifted. The blocks are breaking. The river is moving. You are in receiving mode. But here's the hidden truth. Most people miss this sign. They dismiss their own ideas. They say, "That's dumb. Who would want that? I'm not ready." But Leo the Divine doesn't send ideas to entertain you. It sends them to enrich you. These creative downloads are not random. They are the currency of the spirit, and when acted upon, they open real-world doors. A true story from a Leo entrepreneur. A Leo woman I once coached told me she kept getting an idea to create digital journal templates. Not glamorous, not world-changing, just an idea that wouldn't go away. She ignored it for months, until one night she dreamt of herself designing these journals and feeling free. She woke up and started creating. No strategy, no perfection. She uploaded them to a digital marketplace. Within 8 months, she was earning more from those templates than from her 9-to-5 job. When I asked her why she finally took action, she said, "Because it felt like the idea was chasing me, like it came from somewhere higher." That's exactly how divine provision flows through creativity you trust. Why this happens specifically to Leo. Leo is ruled by the 5th house, the house of creativity, expression, and joy. So when God is about to increase your life, He will awaken your Leo power center, the voice you haven't used, the talent you've hidden, the vision you've been afraid to act on. Not someone else's calling, yours. Because your prosperity isn't in chasing trends, it's in expressing your eternal blueprint. Life lesson. Divine wealth often flows first as divine inspiration. When you honor the idea, you open the gate. So don't brush it off. That thought you had at midnight, it might just be your first million introducing itself. Have creative ideas been showing up for you lately, Leo? Do you feel like new visions are chasing you down? Comment if this resonates. Your next breakthrough might be buried inside your imagination. But even as new ideas flow in, there's something else that begins to shift. Not outside, but inside. Your voice gets louder, your presence sharper, your energy undeniable, and that leads us straight to the next sign. Sign 9. When people around you start noticing that something in you has changed, even if you can't explain it, before the blessing becomes visible, your energy becomes undeniable. Have you ever walked into a room, Leo, and someone just looked at you longer than usual? Not because of your outfit, not because of your words, but because they could feel something different, something deeper, something they couldn't name but couldn't ignore. That's the shift, the spiritual reality of this sign. You see, when God begins to release wealth into your life, it doesn't just affect your bank account. It transforms your field. Your energy becomes warmer, bolder, more vibrant. Your presence feels magnetic. You start to glow, not literally, but energetically, and people feel it before you even speak. That's because God often begins by marking you in the spirit before revealing it in the flesh. You're not doing anything differently, but something inside you has aligned, and the world notices. This sign shows up in subtle ways. Strangers smile at you more often. People start asking for your advice or opinion. Friends say you seem different lately, in a good way. You get more compliments without changing anything about your look. You feel more at ease and people reflect that peace back to you. You may not have landed the deal yet. You may not have received the check yet. But something is shifting, and the room can feel it. A real Leo story of energetic transformation. I once met a Leo man who told me people kept telling me I looked calmer, that I had this glow. But nothing had happened yet. I hadn't gotten the job. I hadn't closed the sale. But I had made a decision. I knew wealth was coming, and I stopped resisting it. That's the key, Leo. Your belief starts to show in your energy. Your surrender shows up as serenity. And that glow, that's God's whisper made visible. Why this sign is so important for Leo. As a Leo, you're already radiant by nature. But when divine wealth is near, that radiance shifts from performance to presence. It's no longer about impressing, it's about embodying. People may ask you what changed. You won't have an answer because there isn't just one. What changed is that you're aligned. And alignment is always attractive. Life lesson. When heaven touches your spirit, earth responds to your energy. People may not know what's happening, but they'll feel it. Because your aura speaks louder than your words. Have people been saying you feel different lately? Have you noticed others responding to you with more warmth, curiosity, or respect? Comment if this resonates. You may be glowing more than you think. But once people start noticing the shift, the next sign gets even more personal. Because it's not about what people see, it's about what God whispers. When wealth is truly being released, you begin hearing messages that seem too perfect to be coincidence. Which brings us to sign 10. When you start receiving divine messages through numbers, dreams, and perfect timing. The universe speaks when your spirit becomes quiet enough to hear. Leo, have you started noticing the same number everywhere? 11, 11, 2, 22, 4, 44. Or even numbers like 7, 1, 12, 12, 8, or 8. Maybe you glance at your phone and it's always repeating. Maybe you keep waking up at the exact same time every night. Maybe you see the same set of numbers on license plates, receipts, clocks, and signs. That's not an accident. What these numbers really mean. In ancient astrology and numerology, repeated numbers are called angel numbers. They're not predictions, they're confirmations. Messages from the spiritual realm to let you know you're on the right path. Keep going. Don't doubt the timing. And when wealth is being released into your life, the numbers get louder. Because God knows your mind needs reassurance while your soul already knows. Dreams that feel like more than dreams. But it's not just numbers. Sometimes the dreams begin Dreams of open doors, overflowing rivers, golden animals, childhood homes with new rooms, loved ones who've passed speaking directly to you, dreams that wake you up in tears, or with a strange, beautiful peace, dreams that feel like prophecies. And Leo, when you start dreaming like that, it's not your imagination, it's your soul receiving preparation. Divine timing and coincidences that don't make sense. You mention an idea, and suddenly, someone calls with an opportunity. You think about a solution, and it shows up in a random video or article. You feel stuck, and a stranger gives you advice you never asked for but needed. That's not random, that's synchronicity. And when it starts happening frequently, it's a sign heaven is coordinating events around your breakthrough. You're not imagining things, you're being guided. A real Leo testimony. A Leo man told me recently, I kept seeing 808 everywhere. I didn't know what it meant, but I looked it up and found out it means abundance is near. That same week, my boss offered me a raise out of nowhere. I felt like I'd been warned in a good way, and that's the point. When you're about to receive, heaven prepares you in advance, through numbers, through dreams, through moments that seem ordinary until you look closer. Why this happens specifically to Leo? Because Leo is ruled by the sun, the bringer of light and clarity. You're a sign of divine messages in plain sight. But sometimes Leo's pride can ignore the subtle signs. So when divine wealth is near, God doesn't whisper, he echoes. Life lesson. Not all guidance comes through logic. Sometimes it comes through alignment. When you start seeing signs everywhere, don't ask why. Ask, what am I being prepared for? Because you're not being teased. You're being told it's already on the way. Have you been seeing repeating numbers lately? Any dreams that feel like messages from somewhere higher? Comment if this resonates. Your spirit might already be receiving instructions. And once the signs show up in your dreams in numbers, there's something else that begins to shift your heart. You no longer chase. You no longer beg. You start to rest. And strangely, things come to you. Which brings us to sign 11. When you stop chasing and start attracting without force. When the lion stops roaring, the jungle listens harder. Leo, let's be honest. You're used to leading, used to being bold, used to going after what you want fiercely, directly, gloriously. And there's power in that. But when divine wealth is truly being released into your life, something surprising happens. You stop chasing, and things start coming to you. The shift from force to flow. At first it feels strange. You're not applying for every job. You're not pitching to every client. You're not hustling 16 hours a day. And yet, people are offering you connections. Money is arriving through unexpected channels. Ideas flow without pressure. The right opportunities land in your lap. You're not striving, you're receiving. And for a Leo, that's the ultimate transformation. Why this shift is so powerful for Leo? Because Leo's natural fire loves to do. But when your inner world is aligned, you don't need to roar, your energy leads for you. You walk into a room and opportunities approach you. You rest, and things move toward you. That's not laziness, that's magnetism. A real-life Leo example. I once worked with a Leo woman in her early 40s. She told me, I used to grind like crazy, network, pitch, prove. But then something shifted. I started meditating, journaling, aligning my values. And all of a sudden, people just started offering me gigs. I hadn't changed my skills. I changed my state. That's the key. Your state becomes your strategy. Your peace becomes your persuasion. And the universe responds to that level of stillness like a tuning fork. It resonates. Why? This is a sign of wealth being released. Because wealth isn't only money. It's ease. It's access. It's abundance without begging. When God starts releasing it, He removes the need to hustle for it. You become like a sun. Everything grows in your light, and nothing demands that you chase. Life lesson. True power doesn't push, it pulls. And when you become magnetic, Leo, you don't need to go get, you just need to become. people, ideas, and opportunities. They come to those who know their worth. Have you noticed things flowing more effortlessly lately? Do you feel like you're attracting more with less effort? Comment if this resonates. You may be stepping into your receiving era, and once you stop chasing, once you start attracting, there's one last sign, and it's the most sacred. Not about numbers, not about energy, not about people. It's about a whisper from Spirit, telling you that the time has finally come. Which brings us to sign 12. When you feel an inner peace that makes no logical sense, the final confirmation. When peace arrives before the money does, that's how you know it's already yours. There comes a moment, Leo, when you wake up, and for the first time in a long time, you are not anxious. Not because your problems are gone, not because you have all the answers, not because everything around you looks perfect, but because something inside you feels different. The unshakable calm. You still have bills, you still have decisions, you still don't know exactly how the wealth will arrive. And yet, you're not worried, you're not forcing, you're not checking the clock every 10 minutes, you're not doubting your worth. You feel okay, you feel ready, you feel at peace. And that, Leo, is the last sign. Why this peace is so mysterious? Because it doesn't make sense. You're not basing it on a contract or deposit. You're not reacting to outside proof. You're responding to something deeper, a divine knowing, a sacred confidence, a whisper in your soul that says, it's already coming. You don't have to run anymore. A Leo story that speaks volumes. One Leo woman told me, after months of fighting, crying, trying everything, one morning I just stopped. I opened the curtains, looked at the sky, and felt this strange calm in my chest. I hadn't received anything yet, but I knew something had shifted. I even told a friend, I think it's done. It's already on its way. A week later, I got approved for a grant I'd forgotten I applied for. That's how it works. Peace isn't the reward, it's the confirmation, the spiritual meaning. In spiritual terms, this peace is called alignment, surrender, the still waters of the soul. It means you've passed the tests, you've shed the fear, you've cleared the blocks, and now you are ready not just to receive wealth, but to hold it. Why Leo feels it so deeply? Because Leo carries solar energy, the light of certainty. When your spirit is truly aligned, it doesn't need signs anymore. It becomes the sign. And when that calm, still flame begins to glow within you, you become a magnet for everything your heart has been quietly praying for. Life lesson. True wealth shows up in your spirit before it touches your bank account. If you feel peace that makes no sense, don't ignore it. Don't question it. It's heaven's final whisper. It's already done. Have you recently felt a strange sense of peace, even without any physical proof? Comment if this resonates. That peace might be your spirit telling you it's already yours. Now that we've uncovered the 12 sacred signs, let's bring all of this together with a message Leo needs to hear before stepping into this new wealth-filled era. The conclusion is next. Conclusion. The wealth was never just about money. Leo. If you've seen yourself in even a few of these 12 signs, there's something you need to know. God isn't just releasing wealth into your life. He's releasing you into your wealth. And that's a very different thing, because the version of you that's coming forward isn't just richer in money. You're richer in presence, in peace, in purpose, in divine alignment. This entire journey was the preparation. All the setbacks, they weren't denials. They were delays to prepare your foundation. All the silence from the universe, it wasn't rejection. It was a pause, so your soul could grow strong enough to carry what's next. All the losses, they weren't punishment. They were clearing space for the real thing. You weren't being abandoned. You were being anointed. Why you had to wait? Leo, your spirit is powerful. And powerful spirits require sacred timing. If the money had arrived too soon, you might have wasted it. If the opportunity had opened too early, you might have self-sabotaged. But now, you've matured. You've softened. You've aligned. And now wealth can't just enter your life, it can stay. What the universe sees in you. The universe sees you as more than a zodiac sign, more than a birth chart, more than a lion. It sees you as a leader of light, a soul with royal memory, a flame that cannot be extinguished. And so what's being released isn't just money, it's inheritance. You're not earning it, you're remembering it. Life philosophy to carry forward. Wealth is not what you chase, it's what you become. And when you become still, trusting, radiant, and rooted, everything you used to pray for starts chasing you. Final reflection. So Leo, as you move through the coming days, don't panic, don't force, don't doubt what you've already seen in your spirit. If these 12 signs are showing up, it's not a coincidence. It's confirmation. If this journey spoke to your heart, subscribe to the Royal Flame of Leo. Leave a comment if even one sign felt personal. And share this with another Leo who might need this message. Because we're building more than a channel, we're reigniting the royal soul of Leo together. Final line. You were never meant to be broke, lost, or forgotten. You were born to carry the flame. And now, Leo, it's your time